Hi, welcome to the Rob and Bird podcast. I'm Rob.
And I'm Bird. We're here to bring hope and motivation to those in the struggle. We're in it too. We cannot afford to give up.
We're basically cheerleaders. The road to success will be hard, but we want you to know you're not alone.
All right, well, let's get to it, Rob. What do we have diving into today's episode?
I think one of the problems is artists need to learn how to balance their lives, what they have to do and what they want to do.
No, Rob. I have good balance with everything.
Do you?
Mm, yeah.
Better than me.
Okay. Nah, I'm. It's eh. No, it is, but it is a factor that we artists have to deal with, and sometimes we go out of control when we're in our ambitious projects, where we just drop everything else and just do that one thing.
One of the things that we were often told going through art school was don't be afraid of getting a job as a waiter or a bartender or something like that because you need you need money. You need money to live. You need money to buy groceries, to pay rent, water, electricity, all the things that you need to live.
Cha-ching! Yes.
On top of the fact that you can also make contacts there.
Oh yeah, you never know who you'll meet in those jobs too. Sometimes, I mean, you wouldn't think it, but there are people I know I can say I work with in the servicing industries. They blew up on doing something creative. Like one of them became a comedian. And he's awesome, and another one hired me to help create a pilot for his show. Who was the what is it wedding photographer? Oh no, wait, no, he was my wedding videographer. Never mind, yeah, totally different. But still, you'll be surprised who you meet and connect with in these other jobs versus just in the mainstream of animation or doing concept art, working video games, etc.
Whatever art that you want to choose. It could be music, it could be poetry, songwriting, actual writing.
I suck at writing, Rob. I'm gonna have you write my books.
Do
You'll
it
be my
yourself.
you'll be my ghostwriter. Yeah, I get it. It's a character from Marvel. Yay! You're hired, Rob.
Other than that, you can't do any of your art if you're starving. I mean, there's a glorification of the starving artist, and while I do think that it is important for artists to know what it's like to starve or something else, it's not a good permanent uh, position to be starving. So make sure you get your belly fed and have a warm blanket.
Yeah, that's very important. It's I kind of don't like that whole like that being carried kind of like as a badge of honor back in the day, and when we were in school, to being a starving artist, and you're just like, oh yeah, you're an underdog, you're gonna break in one day. But sometimes it's also not making the best choices financially is what can hinder your ability to do your best. You know,
The other thing is don't be proud about you have to be an artist because art is about emulating life, or at least I think it is. Maybe you disagree. But if art is about emulating life, learn to live life. And sometimes you're going to have to take jobs that maybe you're a little bit uncomfortable with, but it helps put food on the table. And you start learning a thing or two, and you start appreciating what it is to be able to make a living off your art if you are so fortunate.
yeah, I think yeah, when it comes to creating your own content as well, it also is going to take time, and it can be very taxing financially and with your time, and you're gonna have to be able to have the strong will to handle those situations. But it's nothing wrong with working a job, a regular job, and doing your work. There's plenty of great people in the past that have taken on jobs that also added, if you think about it, like people like James Cameron, uh, there are plenty of people we see out there that have done great things in the film industry and in TV, had to do things from work a regular night job or day job. And while they were doing that, in their little amount of free time, they were doing thumbnails, writing ideas, storyboarding for their next project. And they never gave up. And that's what's really important. But you have to always maintain some financial balance so that you can keep these things financially in order, like your bills and your life expenses, while creating your dream. Is very important. And I would say that's the great thing about, like, I know I'm sounding a little patriotic, but like our country is in it. It allows us to, if we put our heads into it, be able to make that effort a reality. Because there are places in the world that we don't realize that are out of our realm of noticing, that you will be stuck in a certain industry where your industry you want to get into just doesn't exist within distance reach. You have to go outside of the country or outside of the area. It can get difficult. But whereas here, we have the possibility for it to happen. And you can't look at it in such a negative light that if you're not there yet, that means you're not good enough. It's not true. Like I said earlier, some of the greats that we know today have gone through those challenges.
Well, the other thing is, I think struggle makes you realize what's important in your life, what you want to do. So, so sometimes, even if you fail or are experiencing hardship, that's not a bad thing. There's something to learn from it. You may not, it may not be something that you realize now, in that moment, but there is something to draw upon it. There is strength if you're willing to look for it.
And it's sometimes these hardships are good. You need to go through them. It's what adds, they say, adds character. And people who say that, I mean, I think they're not wrong. Maybe you might disagree with me or not, because some hardships are like just really terrible, and I've gone through some levels of stuff myself, but it it just makes the victory that much sweeter when you surpass those moments and you actually achieve a goal, and you hear the words from when you're working, let's say, a construction job or a restaurant for years, and then you apply and then you get an interview at this, say you're trying to be an animator at a media company, and they tell you, guess what, you're accepted, we want you in the team. It just feels so much greater when you go through something that's tough and then you hear that, or your pitch has been accepted and they want to work with you on budgeting your comic book or your film or your TV, or you're working to a TV show.
To add to the list of celebrities, I believe Lee Van Cleef, I think his name was, he was working at a warehouse when he got his call, and he was it was happened to be on a day, his interview, his audition, on the day he was working, and he got the call. He goes into work, and he has this problem, and his boss looks at him and says, "Okay, you're fired. Go get it." You know,
Wow.
because
That's damn.
sometimes the people that you're who's your boss, they're looking for it too, but they see an opportunity for you and they want you to get it. Like Bird said, you never know who you'll meet in your job.
Yeah. It's actually awesome. I mean, and like I was saying earlier, like what a one of a great guy I worked with. His name's Masafumi, and I worked at a Japanese restaurant with him, and we used to joke around, doing stupid stuff. But we got, we our job done. We would make drinks and stuff. And when I left earlier than he did. I was a little older, and that's when I went to go when I left college. I think I was doing stuff for Ugly Americans, and then eventually breaking into Nickelodeon. Um, he Years later, I started seeing him on social media doing comedy stands, and I went to one of them, and I was like, "Dude, I'm so happy to see you that you're doing this." And I didn't think he would do comedy, but he was pretty funny, and I just didn't know what he was going for career wise, and that's what he chose. And lo and behold, the guy's been doing comedy on Comedy Central, in certain networks, and he does his own stand up. And dude, I'm like so happy for the guy. And yeah, just working with him. But you know, there are people I've met in my time working these other jobs where they were talking about how they want to do their own thing, and some of them have. And I even learned even a story of an artist that I follow, and I thought his artwork's pretty awesome. I keep forgetting his name, but he talks about very freely and openly how he worked at Home Depot, and he still enjoys going back when he can. And he works. He freelances working for Netflix and all these other companies as a character. I think character designer.
And that's the thing. You can draw upon the energy of those people that you're working with. Everyone has some sort of dream and ambition. Like maybe you get that enthusiasm from them, and maybe it'll encourage you to go out and do something more than what you're currently doing. Or maybe you'll find your job satisfying. There's that too.
You'd be surprised. It's yeah. I feel like especially these days. I I don't know if people would agree with me on this, but I tend to think like I wonder if the animation industry just has not enough jobs, and there's too many animators and artists that are breaking in. And so even with all of us to get hired, there's still not enough jobs for it to be stable enough for everyone to be able to have a stable career. And I tend to think that in those cases, the artists that don't get chosen, it doesn't mean you don't get chosen because you're not quite there yet. Some cases like that, but it's not always the case. But what needs to happen then is if you decide, okay, while I am sitting here with, because I've had rejection letters, um, you could sit there and go, damn, this sucks, or you can work a regular job just for now. Like there's not like I find that's what I had to do, and but work on your own content and maybe with a group of friends and other artists and writers and voice actors and get together on working a pitch. Not only does that improve your work as an artist or as a writer or as an actor, but you also are creating content. You're hitting two birds, one stone. Creating content that you could use to go pitch and then or put on your reel and then start applying for more jobs again.
Or maybe you're an animator and you meet a musician and you start thinking, hey, we can make a music video out of it.
That too.
Or maybe you find a writer who's interested in songwriting and you can get them involved.
And you can even start a YouTube channel or do a silly podcast like us. And
Very silly, ridiculous
us.
even.
Join us, listeners. Become one of us. Yes. Yeah, I know it's working. I don't know how to get them to contact us, honestly, Rob, but let's move on. But no seriousness, yeah, it's just doing something with your work, with what your goals are while working these jobs. Again, there's nothing wrong with doing these jobs. They're, if anything, very reliable. We rely on these gigs to for people like when they go to Home Depot and they go to any of these stores or construction or in restaurants. And I find them pretty fun, to be honest. Like the restaurant jobs, because you get to hang. You actually have kind of fun. Like there is some fun in them, and it's like some of them find it stressful, but to me, I found it fun because it's so lively and you're constantly moving around.
And maybe you can find a passion through your job. Maybe maybe the field that you studied for a long time. Maybe it's cartooning. Maybe that's not your thing, or music like isn't as promising as you thought it'd be, and you find that you're for whatever reason maybe you don't find it as great as you thought it might be. Maybe if you work at Home Depot, maybe you work at in the gardening section. Maybe you pick up a love for botany. Maybe you like carving out sculptures of trees or whatever. I forget what that art is called, but trees, plant sculptures.
Mm.
Or or maybe you know how to do welding, and then you think I can make some art through my welding.
Or even baking. And sometimes they have those artists that like they do like cappuccinos and they do barista work and they do like the artwork on the coffee espresso whatever cups. You
Hey,
know what I'm talking
people
about?
will pay a lot for a birthday cake and a wedding cake especially.
Yeah, be surprised. And I think yeah, and I know an animator who worked in the industry for for a little while. I mean, you know her. And she went to being she opened up a flower shop in New Jersey. So it's like, and she loves what she does. It's a lot of work, and she does do it for events too. She doesn't just sell plants and flowers and stuff, but goes for wedding events, venues, etc. Well, it's pretty cool, and she uses her own design skills to set these things up, and they look great.
Yeah. So sometimes you go for something, you get educated in something, and you don't end up where you think you are going to end up. That's just life. A lot of people don't end up where they expect to be, but maybe sometimes life will put you where you should be.
Yeah, I don't know what else to think, Rob. But I would say, I mean, that I guess going back into the main top, the term we talking about balance. Um, that's what's important to always have in life, because there are occasions like I know when I was working, my what threw my balance off was leaning into the word of mouth, uh, for jobs, and it did work out for a long time. But then it got to a point where it's like things started drying up, and then I was like, okay, how do I find a job? And then you're applying online, and you realize how difficult it is. And sometimes, what's kind of messed up, and I've been hearing, is that there are job posts for animation that have been sitting there, but they're not real. They're just there to look like they're hiring, but they're not. And you only learn that after a while, and you start to realize, like, yeah, this is not a real gig. Gotta skip it and look for the ones that are more current, not the ones that have been sitting for like a month or 2 3 months, that kind of thing. But it made me realize how I needed to figure out a better system to financially be stable and not lose control of being able to pay things. Like I always be sure to pay my bills and all that, but at the same time to be able to go out to eat a little bit or to spend time, it was just tough at a certain
Well,
point.
well, there's something else to talk about: finances. Do
I don't
you
want to talk
need
about no.
do you need the things that you're buying? Do you need a new guitar, or is the old one working out just fine? Do you need to buy that new tablet, or does the old one work out just fine? Do you need a specific program to write your glorious manuscript, or will Google Drive work just fine? You have
Yeah,
to figure out the cost. You have to figure out, can you afford what you want, the tools for which you're going to create your art? Or can you make do just fine? And that goes for your entertainment expenses too. Do you need that Mercedes, or can you work with a Honda?
Yes, Mercedes all the way. No, I'm kidding. Heck no. Yeah, it's it's interesting, and you know what's cool, dude? It reminds me. Yeah, when I worked for as an assistant for a comic book artist. I guess I'll just throw names. It's I remember Jamal Eichel very briefly. Like he's such a talented artist, and like the dude used like an older Photoshop that we were using at the time, which was like CS3, and he was using like one that was like four versions before, and or something. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, dude, this. He's like, and it's just because he didn't need to buy the newest stuff. He was good with what he had. It just seemed like it worked, you know. And I saw why, and I was like, damn, that's kind of cool, because you think like when you get advertised the newest update, it's a big deal, but then you're just like, oh, this is what it can do, but that's about it. You don't really need it. It's just nice to have. And then you're just spending money at that point when you just keep buying every darn thing that's sold to you on the advertisement.
But that's the thing. If you're starting out, chances are you're going to end up buying the old stuff. Or if you're fortunate enough and you have the money, you'll end up buying the new stuff. But either way, do you need, when it comes to the next version, do you need it? Because learning that new version, that has a cost unto itself. When you buy a new guitar, you have to understand how the chords, how you have to adjust the chords properly, which is in time investment.
It takes, if anything, yeah, people I think with experience, when they get caught up in their craft and they're really good at it, they know what they need to buy. They don't go caught up in the newest version unless there's a big they see a big increase in, like, oh, their productivity. But it's nothing crazy. Like for me, I still use some equipment that's like, what is it? My Mac computer is super old. It's like almost 8 years old, 9 years old, and it does what it needs to do still till this day. I have no need to have to switch it. It's super powerful for its time. I mean, it still can render 4K footage rather quickly.
There's a balance. What do you need and what do you want? Because as with everything in life, you're going to have to make sacrifices. You need food, water, shelter, a place to keep warm. Do you need that Mercedes, or do you want to put your money to your art? Because if you want that Mercedes, more power to you. But if you want that art, maybe you can't afford that Mercedes.
Yeah, for now. You never know if you can, but the point is, it's important to focus on your work as an artist and as a writer, etc., for you to be able to reach those goals if you want to use it to make money. But at the same time, art is a risky business, and you need to make sure that you understand not only being a great artist, or it doesn't need to be great artist in definition of like the most realistic work or anything. It's just great at what you do in your style and what you love to do, but also learning the business side of it to help you balance your finances so that you can be prepared for the ups and downs. That is a very important thing, possessing the right thinking in these matters.
Are you willing to work for your dream, or are you in love with the romanticization of it? Be not afraid of growing slowly. Be afraid only of standing still. Robert Kiyosaki.
Hey there, just want to quickly say thank you so much for listening to our episode. It means a lot to hear from you guys, so we'd really like to know if what we're putting out here is helpful in any way. And if you have questions or even points to bring out, please let us know. Again, thank you so much for listening, guys. Please, if you're into it, like, share, and subscribe our stuff. We really appreciate it if you got the time. And all the best. Thank you.